Alright, welcome back to episode 3 of this industrial electronics series. So in my previous video, I went over how you get established connectivity with your laptop and these and the input-output module, and also your sensors. Okay, so in this video, what I'm going to be doing is actually getting into how you read the data from your sensors themselves in the PACTware software. I'm going to show my screen now, and you're going to see where we left off. So in order to see your data, you're going to want to find whichever sensor you want. So you can extend this as well, and you can find which sensor you want to see and start reading. So I'm just going to go with the ultrasonic sensor. So that one was this UC250, I believe. UC250, okay. So there, double click, and then it takes you here. So this, you can see that IODD software. Okay, so remember, PACTware is our framework application so that you can read all of this data. So these are all software. This is that sensor software. And then so you can see this right here. And process data, you can do more research on what all of these mean, the parameter diagnosis, process data structure. But we're going to be focusing on process data. This is the data that's coming from the sensor itself. Okay, and these can tell you different things. So make sure to look into what your sensor can read and other information either on their website, the sensor's website, or just online. But you can see right now, it's not reading anything. Put my hand in front of it, it's not reading anything. Okay, so in order to read anything, you have to look in these tabs up here, and you'll see this right here. It has a P. This says enable or disable. Enable or disable cyclic read from device or process data. Okay, since we're reading process data, this is the one we need. So you'll click it. Takes a second. As long as you have connectivity with your sensor, and you can tell by looking over here in a solid green, and then that means you should be able to, then you'll see it starts this cyclical process, and that just means cyclical just means cycling. So it's cycling through a certain amount of time, as fast as the device can. And then, so it says no echo right now. If I put my hand in front of it, after it cycles through it, it tells me this value. Alright, so it says in the 20s to 30s range, and then if I move my hand, it's going to be a bigger number. So 195, 183, so almost 200. Well, this is just a number. What does that mean? Well, in order to know what that value is, you can actually extend where it says name and value. Extend this name tab, and you can see more information. It says right here, process data sensor. This says distance in millimeters. Right there, you can see millimeters, and so that means this number is how many millimeters, or the distance away you are, right? So that's why it's important to know what kind of sensor you're working with, because they all read different things. Okay, so next thing I'm going to connect to, just to emphasize what I'm talking about, is this inductive sensor. Okay, so that one is this NRB8. I'm going to go ahead and double click that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. So process data, cyclical read, and you can see process data cycling. Okay, Now then, there's nothing. This one doesn't show as much. Okay, but it says input right there. So this is going to show, it's going to show active or inactive. So this one doesn't, it actually isn't measuring distance. But another thing is if I have my hand in front of it, just like I did with the ultrasonic sensor, nothing happens. But, so this is inactive, but if I grab this right here, this is a piece of metal, right? Okay. This is why it's important to know what your sensor can do and what it's trying to read for. So you can see on the screen again it says inactive, but if I put this piece of metal in front of it, the value changes and now it says active. Okay, this sensor is looking for a piece of metal. So they have all types of different types of sensors for what you need to sense. So there's a ton, there's a lot. Okay, so active. There's also something to note. This is why it's important to look in your product description and or online and see what your sensor can actually do. This sensor has a certain range that it likes to that it can max. It has a max distance for how far it can read a signal. And with these inductive type sensors, the range is actually pretty small. So only by maybe 10 to 20 millimeters, maybe 20, it's probably less. So you can see if I'm all the way up against it, if I'm all the way up against the sensor with the piece of metal, it says the top input is active. That's the switching signal. And the bottom one says stability alarm. That is another way of knowing that when this is too far, or it actually lets you know that you're going too far. So if I can get that right, it should pop up as active now. And I'm a certain distance away. It's like a sweet spot that it likes. So those are important things to look for. And now, which I have different material as well. This is just a piece of plastic. Make sure that this can see it. That's just a piece of plastic. And you can see if I go through with the ultrasonic. Okay, we'll stay on the inductive sensor. If I go up to that, then it's not reading it. Okay? And it's obviously because it's plastic, and this sensor is looking for metal. Okay, well, let's go to this ultrasonic sensor. So if you look right here on this value section, it says no echo. If I put this up to it, then it does read a value. Okay? So, this is why, as I've stated, it is important to know what type of sensor you need and what you're going to be using it for, and what it can sense. I'll go ahead and show you the Festo sensor as well. So I'll double click the Festo sensor. The Festo sensor, we're going to turn on the cyclical read. Process data, it says inactive. Alright. Now, here's this piece of plastic again. Right? And this is the Festo sensor. This one is the Diffuse Light sensor. So what this one does is it sends down light, and so you can see on my hand, it sends down a laser basically, and it looks for that light to bounce back into a receiver in the sensor. So that's what it's looking for. So if it doesn't detect the light that it's sending out, then that's going to be read as a 0. The sensor is going to detect 0, and that's going to be the input. As soon as something is in front of it, you can see then it says active, because it's detecting the light is bouncing back into the receiver on the sensor. Okay? But this has its limitations as well. So every sensor has its limitation and what it can measure. Okay, this is a piece of plastic that's red and non-translucent. This right here is a piece of plastic that is clear. And so it says inactive, there's nothing there. As soon as I put this in front of it, it does say active because I'm close enough. But if I'm too far, then the light will just pass straight through this clear object. So that says inactive, and we are right here. So let me get the other piece of plastic and put it in the same spot just so you can see. So we are right here, and this says active, and we're in the same spot. Even down here, it still says active. So depending on the type of material that you have and you're trying to detect, it can be different. So keep that in mind. Well, let's talk about why there's so many different sensors. In every industry, they could be needing to sense multiple different types of things, and that's why it's good to have such a big variety. And so the main example that I'm going to use is an assembly line. So somebody that makes bottles that's going down the line, you're going to have to sense that product, and depending on how they design that product, you'll have to have different sensors. If it's a metal product, then you can use an inductive type sensor, or something as a bottle. Depending on the type of material that you use, you can either use an ultrasonic sensor or a light sensor. Okay. There's also different types of this light sensor. There is a through beam, which actually has two sensors, and there's one that is sending and another that is receiving. That's the most reliable type of sensor, but they are more costly because you're building and paying for materials for two sensors instead of just one. So that's called through beam. Another type of light sensor is called a retroreflective sensor, and it's similar to the through beam, except there's not two actual electronic devices or sensors. So instead, you're going to have one sender, and then you're going to have a reflector that is somewhere on the other side of it, and it almost does the same thing as the diffused, except you have the reflector, and that shoots that light signal back to the sensor, and it receives it. So it shoots the light back and then it receives it, and that is interpreted as a 0 if it does detect the light as a 0. But as soon as a product or something goes in front of it, then that is interpreted. Okay, sorry, once there's a product in front of it that breaks that connection, that's interpreted as a 1. But if it detects the light, then it's a 0. Okay, so I had that backwards. And then there's this one, which is the diffused, which only has one piece, and that's the sensor itself. It sends and receives that light signal. So I just wanted to mention that and give that example of a production line and how they would use these sensors in this setup. And there's a bunch of different ways that a company could use these sensors, especially in robotics. They can have a ton of sensors. I'm also going to be putting on the screen a video of me placing the objects in front of these sensors again, and showing you on the sensor itself, it usually has an indicator light that will tell you if the sensor is reading something or not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and put the video up, and I'm putting this red plate in front of it, and you can see the orange light right here lights up. If I take it away, it's gone. Same thing with the diffuse light sensor. You can see it's blinking green, that means it's communicating. put this in front of it, and the orange light in the middle comes on. Okay. Now I'm going to do the inductive type sensor, and we'll keep the red block, the plastic. Right here, put this in front of it, and this is the light that it's supposed to be lighting up, and nothing's on. But let me get the piece of metal and put that in front of it. Now you can see that indicator light is saying, okay, I'm reading something. Alright. Okay. So, that's the final video for this series. So hopefully this gave you a better insight into how these systems are used and how to connect to them. So I did want to also mention a troubleshooting aspect of it that you might need to use. Another thing, like for the previous video in episode 2, I was showing you how to connect to everything. If you end up not being able to connect to something, or not being able to download a type of software, you may have to disable your firewall, and you would do that through the Windows key, and you would type in firewall, and it would pop up and it'll take you to the settings to disable it. So that's just if you have to. And then I did also want to show you a video of this input-output module and all of the different light sensors or light indicators on the input-output module itself. So I'm going to put up a video of that right now. And this is just showing you all the different lights that are on and how they're communicating. So the Ethernet one you can see is blinking, and that means it's communicating. You can also see these different ports right here are blinking for the sensors, and that means they're communicating. And then this bus right here is blinking, and then also there's a green light up top that says power, and obviously that means you have power. So you're gonna make sure you see those. So I wanted to show you that aspect as well. Okay, and so now I believe that's all that I have to show you, and we can do the outro. My name is Jeffrey Baker. I am a student at Lone Star College North Harris here in Houston, Texas, and the whole purpose of making these videos is to try to make robotics and automation more digestible and understandable, and so that you can actually enjoy all of the aspects of this stuff. It seems complicated, but you just have to start somewhere and get your foot in, and it'll start clicking. I do have a personal portfolio website that you can check out. I'll leave a QR code at the end of this video. You can scan it and it'll take you right to it, or there is a link in my actual About Me section on my YouTube channel. So you can check out my personal portfolio there. But other than that, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Hopefully I will have even more videos in the future, and be in the industry and be showing you even more. So thank you for watching, and make sure to watch my other videos. Thank you.